Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode I'm going to share a little bit of information as a reminder to you that Allah is constantly in communication with us and that He actually gives us so many chances to hear Him, see Him, feel Him, know He's there, but we're the ones who are basically being blind. So I have decided to name this episode something down the line of "Don't make Allah scream at you" or something to that effect. Okay, I don't know exactly because I'm still recording it, so like afterwards I'm gonna put the name the episode and whatever. And I know that some people are going to, the trolls more likely than anything, but some people are going to be like, Allah doesn't scream, Allah doesn't need to scream. Girl, stop. girl, okay, do we need to go there? This is it's a saying, it's a saying, we're having fun with it. Do you get what I'm saying? It's chill. Well, just chill. I feel like I just need to address it because some people take everything so literally. I think especially having sort of my biggest platform on TikTok and so many people taking everything seriously, it's like metaphors and ways of saying things just for the sake of coloring your sentences and whatever is oh no, you can never do that. And it's no, you absolutely can. So this is just another one. I think maybe I'm a little bit sensitive because of that, so I feel like I just need to say it here as well because I know that some people take everything so literal, but it's just a saying. I'm just gonna say it now. I'm just gonna put it out there. So delete your comment. We get it. Okay, so let's get into this episode because here's the truth. Allah is in constant communication with us. Now, having said that, we often ignore His communication because we don't know what it's going to look like. And it is often because we have these ideas of if Allah communicates with us, it is either the direct one that some of the prophets had the privilege of experiencing in their life, where they could directly speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we're expecting Him to communicate with us in these grandiose, miraculous type of ways where it's yeah, Allah, if you heard me, make a thunder clash happening. Is it called a thunder clash? A thunder clap. I think it's a thunderclap. The point is, we're expecting this grandiose sign from Allah. And sometimes those grandiose signs do come. But before those signs come, Allah whispers. Allah whispers constantly to us, to our hearts, sending us signs, having His angels come through for us in this dunya in ways that we cannot even begin to imagine. And we choose to be blind even though Allah has given us the ability to see. And we ignore the signs because our expectation of the way Allah communicates is so vastly different. And so we're not seeing the communication from Allah when He's whispering it. We're not seeing those whispers in our everyday life. And Allah is, as I said, in constant communication with us through our intuition, through the beauty in this world, through a kind message that somebody sent you, through introducing you to someone that is special in your life, through the knowledge to want sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself, but I was going to say the knowledge that He's sending your way about Islam, but also the desire to want to pray to Allah. All of these things are invitations from Allah. All of these things are communications from Allah to us to guide us towards Him. And the more we engage in this communication with Him, the more we're going to get, the more He's going to be in that constant flow of communication with us. But we first have to start by recognizing when He's communicating with us. Now, there was not that long ago an episode that I did, I believe it was the Ask Me Anything, where I mentioned an example of how I see Allah in everything now, where in the past I probably also would have expected these grandiose signs because it's Allah, right? Nothing is too big for Him, right? So I was also expecting, well, if it's going to be a communication from, the creator of the universe, then surely it would mean nothing to him to send these huge signs so that I can know without a doubt that he is talking to me right now. But then I learned that actually Allah prefers to whisper. Allah doesn't need to shout unless we're giving him reason to shout, which in the days of the prophets, when it was about spreading the message of Islam and about Allah, there was a reason to shout, because the prophets brought down information and communication at such a level that it was important and integral for Allah to make a point of showing the legitimacy of that thing, right? Of that message. And so we have all of those beautiful, grand examples in the days of the prophets. Now, Allah has already done that. So it's sometimes really interesting, because when I use the examples of the prophets, one of the comments that I get, especially over on TikTok, is, well, those were the prophets and we can't compare ourselves with them, and those were... No, but I understand that we're not prophets, but those examples are there for a reason, so that we can reflect in them and mirror ourselves in those examples, so that we don't just see it as, well, that was a time before, so it shouldn't apply to me. But it should. It still should. Even if you're not directly communicating with Allah with your tongue, well, you are, but he's not necessarily communicating with you in that way. We still have to look at the way that Allah communicates with us. Anyway, so back to my story. I completely derailed from that, didn't I? So back to my story. So the way that I now understand how Allah communicates in that he whispers is that Allah also brings all the beauty into my everyday life. I used an example in that episode that I mentioned earlier of how when I was going through a little bit of a difficult time, it wasn't anything serious or anything. I was just kind of getting tired and a little bit fed up, and the dunya was doing too much dunyaing. Do you know what I mean? And so in that 1 week, I think I saw 2 beautiful butterflies and a big dragonfly. And a lot of people would be very willing to sort of just be like, oh, whatever, you saw a butterfly and a dragonfly. Do you get what I'm saying? But to me, that was direct communication from Allah of I know you're going through a difficult time. Here's a little bit of beauty. The butterfly, literally, as I was going to open the ambulatory, the veterinary clinic, I put the key in the door and it flew right in front of me and sat on the window right in front of my face. And it just sat there and did that thing that butterflies do with their wings, where they open and close them slowly. And it just sat there for, I don't know how, probably not as long as I think it was, but it definitely felt like a long time. And I was just mesmerized by its beauty. And in that moment, I just knew that was a whisper from Allah. I just knew Allah sent that to be right there in front of me, because I needed to see that. I needed to know that Allah was still with me, because I was starting to feel a little bit hopeless, or a little bit despair or tired, or whatever I was going through in that moment, right? And that was Allah. Because Allah could just as easily have chosen that butterfly go somewhere else, fly somewhere else, sit on somebody else's window and look pretty for them. But he chose to give me that gift. And the same with the dragonfly and the other butterflies that I saw that week. And I know how it sounds. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I can't hear myself. I know that a lot of people will be like, that's not really, that's not that special, or that's not that unique. And a lot of people will see butterflies and dragonflies and whatever. But that's the art of listening to Allah and seeing Allah in everything, choosing to see Allah in everything. I suppose it's also the way to really put it, because nothing happens without the permission of Allah. We know this. So when something happens that brings you joy, that brings you a moment of peace, that brings you a moment of feeling loved or safe or whatever it might be, that is because Allah allowed for that to be. That is direct communication to you from Allah, because He could very easily have chosen for that not to be, for that not to happen at all in your world. And so when he's choosing those things for you, that is him whispering to you and guiding you and reassuring you and telling you that he's still with you. And to stay hopeful, stay true, keep pushing, right? Keep doing what you're doing, because there will be, the positive on the other side of that. And I actually believe in that same week, of those signs that I got, of the butterflies and the dragonfly, I actually believe that was the same week that I got some really good news that kind of ended a part of that like struggle that I was going through in that moment. And when I say struggle, please take that with a pinch of salt. Like clearly, like I'm not struggling or anything like that. It was just like a downtime. Do you know what I mean? When you're not feeling as amazing as maybe you can. So it was like a little sign, and then there was like that moment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where he's like, and here it is. And now you get, on that other side, you're going to get that blessing as well. And it's just like a little nudge. And as I said again, it's a whisper. Now, having spoken of the whispers, let's talk about when we've ignored Allah's whispers for so long that we're forcing Allah to shout. This is what we don't want to do, right? Like we don't want to ignore Allah to the point where he's like, all right, you're leaving me no choice. Like I need to go in and do something drastic to wake you up. And unfortunately, a lot of people find themselves in that position. And usually they don't recognize it until it has passed well and truly. And then they use hindsight to, if they do some reflection, to recognize and understand that in fact what that was Allah snapping you out of something, forcing you out of something, sort of pulling the rug out from underneath you, because the rug is actually made out of fire and it's burning you, but you don't understand. That is what Allah does when he shouts. He forces something to happen. Again, so when Allah shouts, again, we're not talking in the literal sense of him shouting at you. He doesn't need to do any of those things. But when I'm saying he shouts at you or he screams at you, it is when you're giving him no other option because you have ignored all of his guidance, and he genuinely wants to help you. And you're constantly asking for this guidance, mind you, as well. You're also constantly asking for the guidance, but at the same time, you're blind to see when he's actually guiding you. Then Allah kind of brings out the big guns, and he's like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to, jerk this person out of it, And that's when you see things happening like major disease potentially hitting, and kind of forcing you to take a break, losing something, perhaps even everything, so that you have to start from scratch again. Like these huge events, maybe it's not even like a question of losing something entirely, but getting just close enough for you to feel that fear, for you to feel that moment of, oh, let me just switch off that autopilot, where most of us live, 99% of the time, and wake up, gets our spiritual selves, our ruh, to come to the forefront, which had otherwise perhaps been dormant up until that moment. And Allah is very good at it. I'm sure this person doesn't mind if I say, because I'm not going to share her name, but one girl that I've been working with, for her it was a car accident that forced her to take stock. Alhamdulillah, she is fine, but it was sort of like the point where up until that moment she had either been ignoring it willfully, or she had been blinded to the signs and the whispers of Allah. So Allah was like, okay, you keep asking me for the change, and yet when I'm trying to guide you towards the change, you're not making the move. Hence, I'm going to force you now to make the move. I'm going to leave you no option but to make that move, because you keep asking me for it, but you're not doing it. And I also would like for you to do it. So he put her in a position where she was in a car accident, and it dramatically forced her to look at her life from a different perspective. And alhamdulillah, she's learned a lot from it and is continuing now to do some things that she had kept sort of on the back burner, which is now on the forefront of her life. And alhamdulillah, seeing some success with that. But that perhaps wouldn't have happened if Allah hadn't taken that moment to quote unquote shout at her. We all have these moments. Mine, I've shared with you before, when I was 19, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. That was Allah shouting at me. That was very much Allah shouting at me. But in sort of like, it'll be out before this episode because we talked about health and destiny. And so I believe it was part of like my destiny. It was definitely something that I couldn't avoid, but it was also in there because Allah knew that I was being led astray, that I would go down a road that wasn't going to help me. So it can definitely be more things than one. It's not like this is just this thing and that is it. It could be for that reason, but also for other reasons, right? So or a combination of reasons. So I believe that for me was Allah sort of jolting me awake and saying, hey, you're going in the wrong direction. I knew you were, so I wrote this for you in your destiny, but I knew you were going to need this awakening. I knew this awakening needed to come when it came because it was also going to take you a few years to process all of it and come back again to what I initially wanted you to go, which road I initially wanted you to go down. So it's almost like you're just walking down a path and all of a sudden he just kind of like picks you up and spins you around and you're dizzy when he puts you back down. And then you're going to have to slowly find that path again that's much better this time. And sometimes it can take a little bit of time. Sometimes we can spend a little bit longer time in that dizzy moment where we're still feeling like that, the dizziness of being sort of spun around, but eventually, inshallah, because we take that cue as being from Allah, we now open our eyes and recognize, oh, there was actually a better way that I could have done something or gone down or whatever it might have been. So when these things happen, it is not, as I said again, it is not because Allah is trying to, shout verbally at you. He's not scolding you or anything like that. It's not because he's angry at you. It's a question of him saying, you're asking for it, I want to give it to you, you're not getting the message, so I need now to go in with some relative force to push you into a position where you have no other option but to make that thing also happen on your end, to open your eyes on your end, because Allah already knows, he sees, he's just waiting for you to take the steps, right? And you're the one who's putting the delay on it by being blind, by choosing to be deaf, by choosing not to taste it, by choosing not to feel it, by choosing not to recognize it. So Allah whispers at us or to us until he shouts. And what I want for you, and one thing that I've been saying to the members in my membership group is, don't wait for Allah to shout. Because when he shouts, while he's not scolding us and he's not punishing us or anything like that, it is still very uncomfortable for us. The shouting is an uncomfortable thing. When Allah has to put that kind of force into our life to jolt us awake, to jolt us out of whatever we're going through, and that he's like, get out of it, like wake up, it's never going to be a pleasant experience. It has to be a somewhat unpleasant experience for us in order for us to fully be able to take stock. Because when it's a comfortable position, if it's something nice, like, oh, he's just going to send 100 furry little kittens your way, we don't stop and think, oh, wait a minute, what's going on in my life? We are just like, oh, I'm so lucky, I'm so blessed, I clearly am doing everything right, so I'm just going to continue down my merry little path. So it has to be dramatic enough to the point that it's uncomfortable, to the point where we have no choice but to take a step back and reevaluate. We have to get to that point. And so it's not a comfortable position to be in. And Allah does that on purpose because he knows how we are as humans. He knows what it's like. I mean, how many people have you known who, whether they smoke cigarettes or they eat a very unhealthy diet or they never exercise or whatever, and you tell them in all the kind ways that you could possibly even think of and imagine of how they should look after themselves and be nice to their bodies and their health is valuable and blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of like in one ear, out the other. They never really take it on board. Like, they hear you, they recognize that what you're saying is true, but they're not taking it in. And it isn't until they are diagnosed with a cancer, type 2 diabetes, until they've had a mild heart attack or something to that effect, that like, it's that jolt. It has to jolt you. A jolt is never fun. It elicits a moment of fear of, oh, I could lose something here. Usually it's our lives, but it could also be something else, our family, a friendship, a job, the house we live in, right? But it has to be that. I'm so sorry. I just made a ton of mouth noises. I just recognized that I did it. I'm so sorry. Straight into the microphone, just like, I'm not even sure what I did. I think I was like swallowing, but it was a really weird swallow. It was so much so that I even noticed it myself. And I'm so sorry if you like heard that and you felt like kind of disgusted by me, because I heard it too. And I'm so sorry if you're like listening to it like in your ears and it's just like right in your ears, like mouth noises. Not everybody likes mouth noise ASMR. I'm so sorry. All right, moving on. Yeah, so, oh my God, I think I just did it again. Never mind. We're gonna swiftly move on. So I lost my train of thought. That it has to, yes, it's a jolt. It has to make you feel uncomfortable. It has to force you into a position where you are shocked enough or scared enough to make you take that step back and reevaluate, reassess, rethink certain things. And you can't do that in a place of comfort. In a place of comfort, you have a tendency to, because you feel comfortable. There's no danger. There's no stress. Why should I rethink anything? I'm good, right? And this is why my advice to you is, when Allah is trying to guide you towards something, if He's whispering something to you and you're kind of getting it, you're kind of like, I feel like I'm seeing this a lot. I feel like this is on my mind a lot. I feel like a lot of people are kind of mentioning this to me. This kind of door keeps opening to me. Don't wait. Don't wait for Allah to be like, girl, I keep sending it to you and you're ignoring it. So at this point, I have no choice but to, push you into the deep end of the pool. Like, don't wait for Him to do that for you, because it is uncomfortable, and you have a choice. You have the choice of saying, I choose to just jump in head first, knowing that Allah is already opening the door for me, instead of waiting till He's giving you no option but to jump in. It's also a really good way for us to strengthen our relationship and our tawakkul with Allah, when we don't wait for Allah to literally, jolt us and push us into the deep end of the pool, but to trust His communication when it's coming to us, to trust the intuition that He's giving us, to trust the signs that He's sending, to trust the whispers, because there are far more whispers than there are screams and shouts. And like, I don't know Allah on that level. Like, I know Allah personally between He and I, so I can't speak for Allah, but I would almost dare venture the guess to say, that Allah doesn't like to quote unquote shout. He doesn't like that, He wants us to listen to His gentle whispers. He wants us to be in tune, to look for Him. Again, astaghfirullah, I'm really not trying to talk on behalf of Allah or anything, but the way that I have come to learn about Allah and know Allah really doesn't want to be, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. There's the only word that comes up in my mind right now is like brutal. It can feel brutal in the moment when He has to jolt us. It's not because He's brutal, and it's not because brutal has anything to do with Allah, but I don't know what other word I can use right now instead of it. But like, He doesn't like that. He doesn't like this kind of aggressive behavior from Him to us, especially when He loves us and He wants to guide us to something good. But sometimes we're forcing Him to it. We're forcing Him to that position. So if you can, try not to get Him to that place. Try and make sure that you're in tune. Try and make sure you're listening. Pay attention. Be aware. Allah gives us so many chances to listen to Him, to pay attention when He whispers, to feel Him close to us, being with us, guiding us. communicating with us every single day. And we are the ones who choose not to necessarily pay attention when it happens, because guess what shouts when Allah is whispering? Dunya. Dunya shouts. Dunya shouts so loud all the time. And it can be really hard sometimes to listen to Allah's gentle whispers when dunya is literally in your ear like a screaming, crying toddler. It's straight in, tinnitus-like, right in your ear. It can be very difficult to hear on the other side. Allah's just trying to gently say, you'll be fine, you're good, keep doing, you're good. And rooting for you and cheering you on and guiding you along the way. So we have to be really good at saying, I know this dunya shouts loud. I can hear you, dunya, fine. I know you're not going to stop shouting. So I'm not going to wait until dunya is quiet. I'm going to force myself into a position where I can find that quiet within me and listen to Allah. And that's when you start really appreciating Allah's whispers and seeing them more and more and more, because it no longer becomes a question of Allah has to drown out dunya. It's a question of you being able to shut out dunya so you can hear Allah. And trust me and trust me and trust me when I say He is constantly guiding you and communicating with you. All you have to do is tune in to Him. He has never left. He's never gone away from you. He's never said, I'm going to come back in 5 years. He has always been right there next to you, constantly whispering to you and hoping you're going to come back to Him. So my darling, if you're going to do nothing else today, I don't know when you're listening to this podcast episode, but as you listen to this episode, if you've got time today, sit down and find that peace within yourself where you can say, Allah, I want to see you, I want to hear you, and start looking for Him in everything that you do, everywhere that you go, everything that happens, because He truly, genuinely is absolutely everywhere. All right, my darling, that is what I had for you in today's episode. I hope that this was beneficial information for you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And as always, if you are struggling with this kind of work and you need some guidance or you're handheld throughout, then feel free to book yourself in for a one-on-one call with me where we can do this kind of work together. I'm not going to brag, but I am pretty good at my work. So if you need that kind of motivation and assistance, then sign up for a one-on-one booking with me, coaching session with me, and then we can do that together, inshallah. But my darling, until I see you in the next episode, which is coming next week, inshallah, I forgot my own outro. My darling, I will see you in next week's episode. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love. I got it. Yeah.